The r/custom Hearthstone subreddit is a place where people can post their fan-made Hearthstone cards. Some people post cards with a certain archetype in mind, or others might just have a card idea with a unique gameplay feature. But some of the highest upvoted posts are actually humorous cards which aren't meant to be taken too seriously. But what if I took them too seriously? What if some of these humorous cards were actually in Hearthstone? They might need a few tweaks here and there, but here are some humorous cards that could actually work in Hearthstone, Part 2. First up is Grow Head, 5 mana priest spell where you take an extra turn but the basic AI controls you that turn. Hearthstone has great visuals and audio, they're working on the balancing, and it's a pretty expensive game. But you have to admit the AI has to be the worst technical part of the game. It's gotten better, the dungeon run AI is 10 times better than when I first played my tutorial games, but it's obviously a disadvantage to have the AI play over you. And that's what makes this card so interesting, because you're basically paying 5 mana, which at 10 mana crystals is half your turn, to then take another turn that you don't even control. So not only do you lose half of your first turn, but you also have some schmuck making the decisions for your next turn. I would say that taking control away from the player is bad card design, but Yogg's in the game, so the bar is already pretty low. And speaking of Yogg, getting this spell off of Yogg would actually be pretty fun. Depending on the deck you're playing, which if you're playing Yogg means you already have a few deck fillers in there, the AI could be a curse or a blessing. I could see this card working in a simple tempo deck. Play well-statted minions on curve, and try to play Grow Head early for tempo. For 5 mana you get to draw a card, gain an extra mana crystal, probably get a minion out on the board, and deal a bit of chip damage. Where this card wouldn't really work is in a more complicated control or combo deck that has certain cards you may not want to be randomly played. I could see the AI playing Shadow Reaper Anduin when you have a board of big minions, using mind control on a Tiny Fin, and a bunch of funny Reddit highlights. But could this card actually be in the game? If we look at Humorous, it's hard to justify putting it in your deck. Giving your opponent another turn is way too much tempo and risk for it to be worth what you do in your own 2 turns. So compared to Humorous, Grow Head costs less, most likely gets you a similar tempo advantage, and doesn't have the opponent's 2-turn drawback. Is it too powerful? Yeah, I think it might be, but I have a couple ideas of how to balance it. One option is it could be the same cost, same effect, but now, after your extra turn, the AI will play for you for the next 3 turns. Think about it, you can go get yourself a sody pop, your opponent can try to bait out the AI for bad trades, and I think the tempo you made up with the extra turn will be diminished by the AI's stupidity. If people like this version of the card, maybe they can just print a card that plays the entire game for you. But if you don't think that one is fun or interactive, what if the turn the AI takes control, your deck is now transformed into cards from one of the basic in-turn made recipe decks? That way it becomes like a Renounced Darkness or Explore and Goro. But I don't know, Grow Head seems kind of like a fun idea, and maybe it's Yogg in all the wrong places, but I think with a few tweaks you could definitely print this card. Next up we have Snickers. Maybe the card creator was sponsored, but I'm not getting paid, so instead we have Liqueurs, 1 mana spell. If your opponent's hero is not their starting one, turn them back to normal and restore 1 health to them. I'm not usually a fan of tech cards, but I sort of want one like this that can counter an opponent's Death Knight hero power. In fact, one of the more interesting cards that rotated out is Sideshow Spell Eater, whose battlecry copies your opponent's hero power. I actually don't know if the card even works with the Death Knight hero powers, but a hero copying card like this would be great today. It would be powerful against the majority of control decks that use hero cards in the late game, but weaker against those more aggressive opponents that don't even use them. And on its own, the minion doesn't have amazing stats, so it's more of just a control tech card. I know I've already rambled in one of my other videos about Sideshow Spell Eater, but I think Liqueurs is a clever card, good flavor, but it would still have some trouble seeing play because it's such a situational and low value card. Maybe that should be the price of possibly ruining your opponent's game plan, but I think giving this card the Sulking Geist treatment is probably the right way to make it balanced. It's a minion you don't really want to play because of its stats, but if the meta is too saturated with a certain deck, you can use the card to counter it. I think tech cards are a little troublesome because it doesn't really solve the staleness or core balancing issues, but instead it just gives players a card they can put in their deck to hopefully draw it against the right matchups. I think Liqueurs is alright, but if you combined it with Sideshow Spell Eater, I think it could be a really fun tech card. Instead of just getting a buffed crab or removing all the Jade Idols, with this tech card you're fighting fire with fire, trying to use their hero power against them. Now, I don't really see Death Knight hero powers as being too overpowered or overused, especially now that Anduin's on timeout, but I also think it's fine to give players the option to counter the Death Knight hero power aspect of an opponent's playstyle. Just like if you were a big game hunter, a big minion, I think you should be able to lick your opponent's hero power. Next is Weeping Angel, 8 mana 7/7 that reads, if your opponent alt tabs out of Hearthstone, destroy your opponent's hero. So if you don't know the lore, Weeping Angel is the statue monster from Doctor Who that can only move when you're not looking. It's a cool idea, they're very spooky, and this is the sort of mechanic that's in a lot of different games. But I think Weeping Angel in Hearthstone could be used to fight for a better cause, people wasting your time. Now, to stay true to the flavor of the monster and to combat alt-tabbing, there should be a couple of changes. First, change the text to can't attack, because to keep in the flavor, your opponent should never actually see this card move. Then I'd say make it like a 2-mana 4/4, because you want this to be a cheap tool people can use to ensure their opponent takes the game seriously, but you also don't want a highly statted minion to be abused by Silence Priest. Last up, it should automatically attack the enemy hero when your opponent alt-tabs, and then spawn another Weeping Angel. So this way, when your opponent taps out, there'll be an animation for Weeping Angel to attack, and then another animation of spawning another one, and now you have 2 Weeping Angels, and they'll both attack and spawn 2 more, and your opponent could come back with 1 health and a board full of 4/4s. I like this way better because alt-tabbing isn't immediate death, but if your opponent comes back soon enough, they're also pretty screwed. But the card also shouldn't be hypocritical, so if the person that plays Weeping Angel taps out, their computer should shut down. Yeah, maybe that's a bit too much, but I think where Nizdormu is a hectic dance of actions per minute, I think Weeping Angel could be an eerie unease that persists in the game until your opponent removes it. It's a great way to train your opponent to focus on the game. It probably wouldn't see play on the pro circuit, I don't know how it would work on mobile, but gameplay wise, I think it could be a harmless card to put in the game, because if you lose to Weeping Angel, it's your own fault. And now let's go through a couple quickie ones here at the end. Ultimate removal, 10 mana priest spell, destroy a 4 attack minion. It's a good idea, but way too overpowered. Instead, change it to destroy a friendly 4 attack minion. There we go, that's better. And some may say that this snake oil doesn't help at all, but what you don't know is that this card is actually special because you can put up to 15 copies in your deck. Just draw gadgets in and you'll have a turn 6 lethal, guaranteed. Buy now. Next is Clickbait, 1 mana 0/1. Whenever your opponent hovers over this minion, gain... Thank you for watching. Make sure to check out the r/custom Hearthstone subreddit for a ton of great fan-made cards. You can check out my first Humorous cards video here, and I also do a series evaluating the more serious cards from the subreddit. It's been a pleasure as always, and until next time, ta-ta.